Any chance I could interest you in some grade A beef? The Dolphins trading up to 37 to draft Arizona offensive lineman Jonah Savaiinaea, bolstering their offensive line. Covering here on Locked On Dolphins.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting, author of Touchdown Miami on Substack, and the NFL draft lead for the 33rd team. I want to give a special welcome and shout out to our everydayers, because it is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions do apply. And I'm wearing black because we are putting some narratives to bed. I don't hear about Liam Eichenberg projected to be a starting offensive lineman in the year 2025 anymore. No, sir. No, ma'am. Jonah Savaiinaea, newest member of the Miami Dolphins, grade AB, 324-pound offensive lineman out of the University of Arizona, almost 34-inch arms, athletic, linear, explosive player, is going to play inside at the next level. The Dolphins announced him at the podium as a guard. They come up from 48, which is the thing that everybody is really seemingly upset about. But we're going to cover the trade. We're going to cover the fit. We're going to cover the player. We're going to cover the offensive line. And we're going to dig right in. And we're going to start right now with this trade itself. Two different trade value charts that are popular. One, the Jimmy Johnson Classic first overall pick is worth 3,000 points. And then the Rich Hill model is another trade value chart that is kind of reverse engineer from the one that the New England Patriots used when Bill Belichick was there. So different values for each of the picks in the NFL draft. And the Dolphins gave up 48, 98, and 135 to go up to 37, and they got 143 back. So let's break this apart into two separate things. 135 to 143, it's a nothing burger. It's 8 spots in the middle of the third day of the NFL draft. It's nothing. It's inconsequential to me. There's not a player there that I'm going to kill myself over that wasn't there at 143 that potentially I could have got at 135, because if I want to get back to 135, I can sneeze and get the assets I need to get that done. Then you have the big piece of this, which is 48 and 98 for 37. And it's a sizable jump to get up into the top 40. And that's still a meaningful pick. And that's the point of the trade value charts, is assets depreciate the deeper you get in. And the deeper you get in, the less that the separation there is between the value of the picks. But I can tell you, between the two most prominent trade value charts that exist, and I know I've beat the drum about getting more offensive or more draft capital. I still want to find a way for the Dolphins to get more picks. I'm looking at you, Jalen Ramsey. I'm looking at you, Tyreek Hill, if we can do it, however that looks like. But they have now ammunition on day 3 where if they want to pair 116 and come back up, they could probably do it. They took a pick from this year to snap their fingers and get a draft pick last year out of thin air. We're not done. Now, we might be done tonight. I hope not. But I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to focus on the value of the trade, okay? And Chris Greer told us all week, we're receptive to coming up or going down for the right players. So breaking down the math of this deal, let's do the Rich Hill chart first. 37 and 143 is 176 points on that trade value chart. 48, 98, and 135 is a combined 175 points going to the Raiders. So according to that trade value chart, the Dolphins got more total assets, according to the trade value chart, to come up in the draft 10 spots, 11 spots. The Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, 48, 98, and 135 is 556.5 points going to the Raiders, and 37 and 143 is 564.5 points coming back in. So according to the Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, you gave up 2 more points out of 560 something to go up 11 spots and go get your guy. It's as close to push and break even. And if it's a push or break even, the team that's coming up more often than not, because they have a targeted player that they're picking higher, you're facilitating a change to come up in the draft. It's not a loss. The timeline's having a nuclear meltdown right now. I don't understand. I didn't do a live stream tonight. Hang out with all Dolphins fans and do all the snap of the fingers, drop of the hat content. And my mind is blown that the trade, because even if they stuck at 48, and even if they have 48, 98, and I don't think Savaiinaea makes it to him at 48, just based off the fact that they went up and moved, and there were offensive line barriers between the two spots. And he was one of those guys. He was one of those 4 guys for me that was in that pocket of second round value guys to go up and get. And Nicky Minori came off the board, and the medical issues exist with the 2 top corners and Revel and Will Johnson. Carson Schwechner went off the board, so that temptation of one of my man crushes was off the board with the first couple of picks. At its core, what the Dolphins have done and what the Dolphins continue to tell us with their personnel moves is they don't want to be a soft football team anymore. We should be celebrating that, because even if they kept 48, 98, and 135 and they didn't get 143 back to go to 37, we were going to wake up tomorrow morning and say, oh, they got a couple of holes that look real bad. That was always going to be the case. That was always going to be the case. Because if they went corner and then they draft an offensive lineman at 98, you're going to look at the offensive lineman they got at 98 and say, they still need a starting guard. If Jonah Savaiinaea gets to 48 and they pick a corner at 198, are you going to wake up in the morning and say, hey, we're trading Jalen Ramsey? It's going to be Cater Kohu, this 98th overall pick, and Cam Smith and Storm Duck. We're good at corner. Were you going to wake up and say, hey, we feel good about it? So they had a guy that's a go get your guy, and it's more about the message that it sends for the kinds of football players that they're caring about that I'm fired up about. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys and say Dolphins are going to win 12 games this year and they're going to go to the conference championship. I'm not worried about any of that right now. I'm living in the draft ecosystem and looking at where is the team, what do they need, what were their problems, what are they doing about it? This is a direct message. They've invested in the offensive line the way that they told you were going to, that a lot of people didn't think they were going to. I was hopeful this was going to be an offensive lineman here, 48, because this was your last spot. I said this in the last couple of weeks leading up to tonight. If you didn't get an offensive lineman at 48, I don't think you were going to draft a guy that you were going to look at and say, I expect him to be a starter. Chris Greer said at the podium 15 minutes ago, we expect Jonah Savaiinaea to be a starter for us. He's a starter for us at guard. We're going to talk about the player. We can talk about who he is, his background, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to do that now here on Locked On Dolphins. Make sure you guys stick with us. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. It's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in when you clocked out. LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free. Share it with your network and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post Your Job is LinkedIn's new feature, which can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. Here's a pro tip. You can add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture and double your reach to qualified candidates. It's no wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Dolphins' first 2 draft choices, almost 700 pounds of interior line play. Jonah Savaiinaea was at the Senior Bowl, had a chance to see him up close in person. And he's a player that the more I watched, the more he grew on me, especially It's kind of like the Will Campbell experience that I had, where I watched him and he played tackle. But as you watch more and you kind of make peace, I think this guy's going to play inside of the next level. You really start to like the outlook. So he came into the NFL Combine at 6'4", 325 pounds. He had an 82.25-inch wingspan with just short of 34-inch arms, right? So he was kind of built like a tackle. But I do think his style of play is best suited to work and thrive and have success inside at guard. I want to read a couple of notes and bullet points off of the report I have for the 33rd team. I'm not going to sit here and just read to you guys for the next 20 minutes, but it paints a helpful picture, and it's nice to have it readily available. Jonah Savaiinaea, physical mauler in the trenches. For those of you who wanted an offensive lineman that you could just line up behind and potentially get some displacement and push, the pro Tyler Booker gang, this is your guy. And the difference is on the 10-yard split about close to a quarter of a second. Savaiinaea is more explosive in the first 10 yards. And that shows on film. Boasts positional versatility across his college resume, but his brute force power and heavy anchor will be best optimized at guard at the next level. Savaiinaea lacks the kind of dynamic hips and foot speed that will allow him to consistently dictate terms on the edge as a space blocker, setting the width of the pocket. But in short set opportunities and tighter alignment defenders, he has the chance to smother defenders with his center gravity and grip strength. He's a viable run blocker from the jump, shows good displacement and wash in vertical release and down block opportunities. The knowledge that he could get you through a stretch in a pinch at tackle will likely help move the needle for some as well. Ideal fit for run-heavy schemes looking to create displacement in the run game. Has enough first step ability to create wash and wall off with power and counter schemes. Despite his resume at tackle, should be drafted with an eye towards returning to guard at the NFL level, where he'll be protected from speed off the edge and allowed to work in tighter quarters and set hard angles and edges for defenders. He should be considered a starting caliber player. He logged just short of 1,000 snaps in his college career at right guard already, and then has over 1,000 snaps at right tackle. And he did play 350 snaps at left tackle as well. Diversity. He's from American Samoa. He played at St. Louis High School, which is a 3-star. He's a 3-star recruit. St. Louis High School, if that sounds familiar, that was the high school that Tua Tagovailoa played his high school football at. He chose Arizona, and here's what I like about Savaiinaea and why he chose to go to Arizona. He was recruited to Arizona State. He talked about wanting to turn the program around, and that was like a big thing for him. And he just got glowing reviews from Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel for like the football character at the podium. But anytime you open up a school bio page and in there, he chose Arizona because, quote, I want to flip this program around. I chose Arizona because I want to learn from one of the top offensive line coaches in the country. He was recruited to bigger schools than Arizona, but he liked the fit for himself, and he did not shy away from the challenge of foundationally building. And he's been a big piece of that. He voluntarily moved himself out of playing tackle in a game. I think I wrote about that for Touchdown Miami. This was I did a story for Touchdown Miami. And it was called Culture-Changing Prospects at Each Position for the 2025 NFL Draft. The focus being looking to improve the culture of the organization. Here's what I wrote. Paint the picture of who Savaiinaea is on the football field. This is a man who volunteered mid-game to kick inside to take a more pressing matchup for the unit. Volunteered to move inside and block USC defensive tackle Bear Alexander. Brennan Carroll, the team's offensive coordinator, could not be more complimentary of the football character and background. So you have a guy who is coming to the Dolphins who gets glowing reviews from a team culture perspective, a football IQ perspective, a versatility perspective. He brings power and displacement in the run game. He's going to be a better pass protector inside because he's not as stressed with some of his vertical sets and angular sets to be able to get width and attack edge rushers. He's more tight quarters type of player, but he's really explosive and pushing 330. has played on either side of the center, has played guard, has played tackle, allows you to take Liam Eichenberg and remove him from the conversation of, this was the thing everybody was all stressed and pressed about. Oh, Liam's back. He's going to start. They're going to trust him to start. He's going to be James Daniels, Jonah Savaiinaea, your starting guards. And you looked at what they added with Larry Borum at 330 pounds, and then what they added at James Daniels at 325, and now Savaiinaea at 325, 330. They got big dudes. Message received from 2024. I'll give them this. I don't know if it's going to work, and I'm sure frustrated fans are probably going to get irritated with me coming on here and having rave reviews for this selection. But I can't sit here and pretend like seeing what was wrong with your football team and actively embracing the idea of replacing it and fixing it and addressing it in the way in which they have, and getting back to the meat and potatoes and the core of the football team being the trenches and a couple of young guys stepping in for you and being potential tone setters and pillar players on offense and defense to play in the heart of the line of scrimmage to help you win the line of scrimmage, which was the thing the Dolphins, everybody's taken exception with the last 2 years, was the inconsistency in their ability to do that. Savaiinaea comes in here. He turned 21 in January. He's going to be 21 his entire rookie season. It's another young player. I love it, man. I love the fit. I talked about this when we pulled up my draft board this morning, and we stacked this. And I got Charles Grant, I got Tate Ratledge, I got Savaiinaea here, kind of as a bundle of interior offensive linemen that if you're going to draft one of them, you kind of expect them to be a starter. But Grant played at William and Mary and is transitioning from tackle. How ready is he to play, even though he's probably the highest ceiling in the scheme? Tate Ratledge, I really like, but there's no flexibility there. And Savaiinaea is arguably the best athlete of the bunch. I think he's got some little things to clean up. But again, he hasn't really been allowed to settle into a position. We talked about the 350 snaps at left tackle, just over 1,000 snaps at right tackle, just under 1,000 snaps at right guard. He could come in and be probably the right guard for you. I would imagine he's going to play between Aaron Brewer and Austin Jackson, and then you're going to have Patrick Paul getting James Daniels, a veteran player, playing next to him to help keep him acclimated. So both of your young players are not playing next to each other. I'm doing segment 3 before we do segment 3. But I'm fired up, man, and I hope the energy and the vibe around the pick, I hope if you're on the fence, I hope it tells you, no matter what happens with the Dolphins this season, even if it's a bad season, these are great players to have as foundational pieces for whatever comes next. We're going to talk more about the dynamics of this offensive line. We're going to get into it next here on Locked On Dolphins. Stick with us. NBA playoffs are here. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting easy, whether you're choosing to bet on the Heat or diving into individual player props. From three-pointers, steals, assists, the game line, the team total, FanDuel has so many ways for you to bet your favorite team and your favorite props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. I'm fired up, man. I am fired up that the stigma around the football team, they're giving themselves a chance for it to not be the stigma anymore, right? And obviously they've invested in a lot of speed and the sexy, flashy players, and was banking on a lot of the investments that they made early in the version of the build, some of which happened before Mike McDaniel got here. For this transitional period, they're giving themselves a legitimate chance to have success. And the economics of this, I think, are not nothing either. Now, the team's still going to have to figure out what they're doing at corner. There's no question of that. There's a lot of ball game left. I don't know what pick they're at right now. It's about 8:20 p.m. But there's a lot of ball game left tonight. There's a lot of ball game left this offseason. There's free agency ads that potentially can have. But coming into tonight, I was looking at the board and I said, if you could tell me that you could potentially get Eamon Worry or one of the offensive linemen were over the moon. And Seattle comes up and they get Nicky Manwari, and then the Browns make their pick. I kind of heard and got some wind that maybe they were exploring a trade up. And then the Browns made their pick, and boom, off we go. Here we go. And pick comes in very quick. Savaiinaea is the selection. I firmly believe he's best served playing, even though he's played on the left side. Feels like a natural fit at right guard. And the potential for him and Austin Jackson, if they're going to diversify the run game, which I think they've given themselves a decent chance to do. We'll see what else happens if they go somewhere else at running back. I was a little ticked off to see the Patriots got Travion Henderson, but that's neither here nor there. If they give themselves the chance to diversify the run scheme, and everybody's been wanting more downhill, more vertical run game. When you get into short yardage, you have guys that you trust yourself to run behind. You go from having combo blocks with Teron Armstead and Robert Jones and Austin Jackson with Liam Eichenberg, having combo blocks with James Daniels and Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson and Jonah Savaiinaea. You can run more power. You can run more duo. You can run more inside zone. And I think that's a big piece for Miami, with where so much of the struggles was they were so outside zone dependent. And I still think that's going to be the identity of the offense, but the diversification of what kinds of schemes can you lean on and take advantage of matchups wise, you can get some evolution in this offense. And Savaiinaea is now going to be a part of the solution for hopefully taking steps. And listen, this is a young group. I mean, you consider, how old is Austin Jackson? I mean, he came in as one of the youngest players in that draft class. Austin Jackson's 25 years old. He's going to turn 26 at the start of the season. Savaiinaea is 21. How old's Aaron Brewer? Pulling these up on the fly, Wikipedia style. He's 27 for the season opener. He's not going to turn 28 until the end of October. So he's in the physical prime of his career. How old is James Daniels? James Daniels now the oldest offensive lineman on the roster, 27 years old, our oldest starter. And then obviously Patrick Paul is still just a pup. Was a long tenured, like 4-year starter at Houston. He's 23. He's not going to turn 24 until November 1st. You got young guys. Patrick Paul's 322. James Daniels, 325. Obviously, Aaron Brewer is Aaron Brewery, 295. That's probably 295 after a couple extra lunches. But then Austin Jackson's 315 and Savaiinaea is 325. Larry Borum is a util guy at 330. You got younger. You probably, hopefully, got more durable. You still got guys with scheme or positional flexibility. Paul's going to be an exclusive left tackle, but James Daniels can play the 3 spots on the interior. Brewer can play guard in a pinch. Savaiinaea can play tackle and guard. Austin Jackson's played left tackle, right tackle, and guard. Borum can play guard and tackle. Eichenberg can play all 5 spots. And he's now, we went through the math, he's no higher up on the list than your 7th offensive lineman, good old 74. I would love to see him get another name and push him down to O-lineman 8, in which case you say, okay, we'll carry as the 8th offensive lineman. You're going to get your $2 million this year, and that's it. We hope to never see you. I like this move. And I'm not going to get wrapped up in, he would have been there at 40. I don't know that for sure. I would assume if he would have been there at 48, they wouldn't have moved up. But you also, and if you sit there and you let it come to you and you take a corner, then everybody's going to wake up tomorrow morning, they're going to be pissed off about offensive guard anyway. You're darned if you don't, and you're darned if you do. So I'm just going to look at the move. I'm not going to worry about the big picture. I'm looking at the move. And what it says about, and Mike McDaniel dropped that word again in the podium the session. The tonality. He used the word tonality again. And he used it in the sense of what Savaiinaea brings to the game. Violence and aggression. Which he said were non-negotiables. That's the direction this team is going. I can't get mad about that. Because whoever they were going to pick at 98, more often than not, I would have looked at it and said, I don't know that guy's going to start for you anyway. Now, I still want to find a way to get back into the third round, whether that's 116 and now they've got 143, 150, and 155. I would imagine that they'll be able to bundle some of that and make a splash or take something from 2026. They're not guaranteed any compensatory picks. So they'll have to kind of see what comes their way. And I'm willing to do that too, and then judge the entirety of the draft class when we get to the end of the rainbow. But right now, I know you picked twice in the top 40 picks, and both guys, violence and aggression and rare size and explosive athleticism components to each one of their respective profiles that makes you better in the trenches, which is where this team was woefully shortcoming last year. I can't be mad at that, and I hope you won't be either. Top Craps, keep it locked in right here, Locked On Dolphins. Appreciate you guys. Check out the show. We'll be back with some more news, whatever comes our way. We're going to tackle it here, Locked On Dolphins. Talk to you all again soon. Go Fins.